All right, like I said, I'm Aiden with Hoffman & Hoffman. I'm just going to go over the Vector fans we sold. Just a little precursor on Greenheck. I mean, it started in 1947, and now like two brothers started it, and now it's like the worldwide leader of air movement of fans. So they have their headquarters in Schofield, Wisconsin. They actually opened a plant down in Shelby, North Carolina for DOAS and tempered air, and some fan products there. So they have local representation. We actually have good lead times from that plant for the most part. I know lead times are kind of a wishy-washy thing right now, but just going to go over basically what this fan is. So this is a Vector high plume exhaust fan, belt driven fan for this particular model. It comes standard with spark resistance as well as extended lube lines. With the belt driven fan, we have, here is the motor compartment right here. To access the motor compartment, obviously we undo these bolts to have access to it. Maintenance of these fans are very easy. Like, these are my favorite kind of fans. They are, once they're started up, they're absolute tanks. So first off, since it's a belt driven motor, keep tension correct in the motor. Make sure once this started up, which it sounds like they are, you're doing kind of maintenance in terms of checking the belt tension periodically. Really, that's about it. As long as you're keeping the tension about right, you shouldn't have any issues in that regard. Secondly would be the kind of keeping these things clean, and that's for both internal and externally. Any sort of dirt kind of buildup obviously degrades any sort of like grease fitting, any sort. You want to basically keep it clean to make sure you aren't getting any dirt on the motor or kind of on the fan wheel itself. So kind of periodic checks, and then I'm not talking every week or every other week, but monthly checks just to make sure that there's no dirt buildup or anything on those regards. What else? Since these are belt driven motors, you'll have a kind of a lubrication schedule. I printed out a bunch of IO&Ms that might have been passed out. This has a schedule for lubrication. Just make sure you're following this to ensure that your bearings aren't going to get screwed up in that regard. Now, these things also have isolation dampers. I think the motor tray should be on the other side, but to undo the isolation damper, really you're unscrewing it, you're pulling it out. Believe there's no actuators on these things, so you don't have to worry about disconnecting an actuator on the fan itself. Trying to think what else. I'm trying to keep this quick and easy. One note about the coating. So this is a lab coat coating. It's a two-part process. There's an epoxy base after the metal is treated itself with a resin put on top of that. It is great for almost any type of application, any salt spray, UV lights, corrosion. The only thing, if this is ever chipped or anything, you want to make sure that that is sealed up pretty quickly. If you leave it unsealed with a chip for a while, you have the ability of rust getting into the fan, and they could spread and deteriorate. So really, if you see any chips, even though it looks small at the get-go, make sure you're fixing that quite quickly, or else you can get further problems down the road. Now, unless anyone has any questions, we can walk around the fan if you guys would like, but that's really all I got in regards to maintenance.